Well, I first got interested in wildlife conservation when I was very young because my father had always made sure that we were living close to wildlife, and even when we weren't living close to wildlife, we'd always visit national parks or areas that had wildlife in them. And so I think for me, just because I love animals, conservation was the perfect field for me to get involved in, because I just have a passion for wild spaces and wild things. I do believe that women can do this job, and I don't think that women should be put down or seen as inferior or even seen as incapable of doing this job. I've been doing it for, 9 years now, and I think that I've reached a position where a lot of rangers know me now, a lot of sergeants and colonels know me now, and there is that level of mutual respect, as there would have been if I was a man. The poachers come in on the ground and they're shooting elephants on the ground, and the only thing that's going to stand in between an elephant and a poacher's bullet is a ranger. Life in the bush is pretty unpredictable, and every day is a new day, it's a new experience, and you just have to be alert every minute and every second of that day in order to protect yourself and to protect your teammates.
Like you can see on the... Right now, there is an elephant on Naboisho Conservancy who was hit by a poacher's poison spear. In Tanzania last year, over 120 lions were poisoned. We have to do something, and we have to do something now.
I think that politics is a very important component to conservation and making sure that conservation efforts are successful. YALI program I think is really interesting, and I chose the civic leadership track because I think it is going to help me in my work now and also hopefully in the future. Yes, I hope in the future at some point I will be able to get more involved in the political scene of my country so that I'm able to make a bigger change on a wider scale. I think that aside from poaching, one of the major challenges we face in Africa as a whole, particularly in Kenya right now with wildlife conservation, is the change of land use and unregulated land use planning. We've got a lot of development coming up in areas that are elephant corridors, for example, and that's having a knock-on effect on other species. I think that the solution to human-wildlife conflict is really a greater sense of responsibility on the part of communities and the government, but I think that there needs to be a greater attention put on our development plans, for example, the railway that's cutting through a national park or major road systems, because I think these are really inevitably going to affect not only the wildlife and conservation, but the communities that live around those areas. A lot of people feel like poaching has reduced. It probably has, but that doesn't mean the problem has gone away. We recently burnt over 105 tons of ivory and over 1.5 tons of rhino horn in our bid to make a statement to the world that we as Kenyans are against not only ivory and rhino horn trade, but wildlife trade in general. To be honest, that's now when our work truly begins. Now is not the time to relax. And if anything, it's a time to move forward and enhance our efforts on the ground. So in 10 years' time, we're not burning ivory again.
I am committed to help animals and wildlife survive for the sake of myself, for the sake of you, and for the sake of my future children.
You know, a lot of people think that conservationists are protecting wildlife and natural spaces because we enjoy it, which is true. But then the greater reason for doing that is because we really understand the intrinsic values of wildlife and the environment on future generations and the communities that exist around them. I'm quite happy about the YALI program, and I'm really, really excited and can't wait.